Hi, Dr. Funke Apolabi Brown. So today I want to talk about why does your toddler wake up in the middle of the night? I get this often in my practice where the parent comes and says he sleeps well, he falls asleep okay, but then at nighttime just wakes up again and again, comes to my room, and it's this back and forth all night long. And it's really frustrating because nobody else at home is sleeping. Help, what do we do about it? So this is what I usually will say. I ask about the nighttime. I know in fact, sometimes it's frustrating. Like, are you kidding? I just said my child sleeps okay at night, at the beginning of the night, but really has issues later on and wakes up frequently. The reason why that is a very important question of how the child falls asleep at night is that there is what you call sleep associations. And so a lot of children have this, even from when they're babies or infants, they have the sleep associations. Even we ourselves have the sleep associations. And what those sleep associations essentially mean is that whatever you need to fall asleep is what you need to stay asleep. So for instance, even as adults, if you went to bed and you had your really nice soft pillow or firm pillow, depending on your preference, and then you go to sleep, we all have very brief awakenings during the night, about 5 times a night. We all wake up, but we don't know it. The reason why is because when you have that very brief awakening, that same pillow you fell asleep with is still under your head. But think about it. If your pillow falls to the ground and you have that very brief awakenings, what would you do? You would pick it up, you would put it back so that you could continue to sleep. So the same thing happens with children. So whatever they need to fall asleep is what they need to stay asleep. An example I would say is, for instance, many toddlers tend to want their parents to be in the room. So the parents are like, well, he falls asleep okay. I mean, I lay in bed with him, and then I sneak out of the room once he falls asleep. And then in the middle of the night, he keeps waking up and coming back to my room. And so and usually that's when the light bulb goes off, like, oh, wait. Yeah, he comes back to my room. Exactly. So that sleep association is that child needs you there to fall asleep. And the last time they were falling asleep, you were right there. And so when they wake up, they need you to be there for them to continue to sleep. They just need that help. And so this is where we need to retrain them or reteach them to be able to fall asleep on their own. So one of the main things I usually will recommend again is let's work at the beginning of the night. It's hard to teach anybody anything in the middle of the night where everybody's exhausted. So what I usually will say is, have your consistent bedtime routine. That's number one. Have your consistent, calm, relaxing bedtime routine that leads them in the direction of the bed. So about 2 or 3 relaxing activities as their routine. Number 2 is when they get into bed after their routine, so whether it's to bath and read a book and kiss goodnight and put them in bed, is that you put them in their bed and you sit right next to them. You sit right next to them. So that's number 2. You sit right next to them in a chair, for instance. And then when they fall asleep, you leave the room. Now, what then happens is that every 3 to 4 days or so, you start to shift that chair in the direction of the door. So you're right next to the bed. Then in 3 or 4 days, you move to the middle of the room. After that, you move to the door. And then you leave once they fall asleep. So they still have you there, but they're slowly starting to fade. You're starting to fade your presence from their bedtime. And then number 3 is when they wake up in the middle of the night, because they will still wake up, I need you to do whatever it is you do to get yourself and them back to sleep. So whether it is having them come back to your room or going back to their room, just do that for now. Because as you continue to make your way out the door with your chair moving out the door, eventually they'll learn to sleep by themselves. So essentially, by the time you get the chair at the door and they're falling asleep, then the next time you get to put the chair outside the door so they don't see you, but they kind of get that feeling that you're there. And so those are the main things that you would do. So one is that consistent bedtime routine. Two is have the child fall asleep in their bed with you sitting right next to them, and you gradually start to move your chair away from the bed towards the door until you're out the door. Number three is for the night wakings, whatever it takes for you to fall back asleep and have them fall back asleep, just do that, because we want to get as much sleep as possible. And then eventually that what you started at nighttime is going to slowly translate into their nighttime, the nighttime awakenings. And so those are just the tips that I would recommend for your toddler who needs you to fall asleep and as a result is frequently waking up at night. Let me know how this resonates with you. Let me know if this was helpful, and definitely like, share, and subscribe to my channel. That's it. I'll see you next time.